Hello, everyone. This is Rick. I'm the game master for the Hammer of the Gods podcast. Also, do stuff for Even Footing Games, and I'm here again after a couple weeks off to play some solo TTRPGs. Uh, First up, I'm going to play, or at least kind of play, a game called Low Spell Slots, which is by Amber Logsdon and Seth Wichuki. I'm probably saying that wrong, but A for effort, I guess. Um, I guess I probably need dice, huh? That would be helpful. One moment. I'm very professional. In case you all haven't learned that at this point. Um, so for this, you roll a d6, follow the instructions based on your roll. I'm not actually going to do all of the things on here, or probably any of the things on here, on stream because a lot of it is just kind of self-care stuff that isn't going to be stuff that, number one, I don't want to take the camera with me as I'm going around doing stuff. Number two, some of it just wouldn't be very exciting to watch. So this is just kind of my prep, and I'm going to do it sort of like I've done with some of the other self-care games off stream. I'm just going to do that, and it's on the honor system. So I'm going to roll. Let's see, my first. I got a 6 on my d6. So it says, do a fun thing. You earned it. And it gives examples of video game, analog game. Weird. I'm doing an analog game right now. Read, specifically it says read vampire romance novel. Make a new character for a campaign. I've already done some of those things today, which, go me. I'm just doing extra stuff. Yeah, I'm probably going to play some Fallout before I play some Fallout. Because I'm like multiple days deep in Fallout 4 in my first playthrough. And yeah, it's like addictive. It's ridiculous how much I enjoy just doing all these bullshit random side quests. And I'm going to pick one more thing because it does say at the end. Hi, Aaron. Thanks for lurking. Where did it say that? It said a thing. I don't know. It said something about don't overdo it, because this is a game of giving executive dysfunction the finger, just a way to kind of motivate yourself or give yourself a gamified way of getting stuff done. So my second roll, because I'm not overdoing it, is 5. Hey, Elena. So 5 is message someone cool. Either a friend, your partner, a crush. Tell them you love them, share a meme, discuss ways to battle existential dread. I've also done several of those things today, but I'm going to do it intentionally here after I finish. So, yeah, that is Low Spell Slots. I think it's also a really fun. I like a lot of these simple, like 1 or 2 page self-care solo games, because really it's just gamifying taking care of yourself. And you know what? Sometimes we need that. So that's what I'm going to do after stream. But what we're really here today to do is to play I Have No Railgun and I Must Scream, which is, in theory, a game about giant mech battle, futuristic space warfare, but realistically, the description here says the world is at risk. The military is worse than useless, which that's just facts. The only hope for humanity is the Mecha Corps, piloted by children and young teenagers. I disagree with this next part. It says, unfortunately, you're not one of them. I think the unfortunate part is the next line. Your sibling is on the front lines in a mech, but you're stuck at home waiting for any news. I think I'm very fortunate to not have to be on the front lines fighting. I think it's unfortunate that my sibling is. So This game is a solo game about being a civilian during world-changing conflict, humanity in mech-focused games, and growing up despite a massive threat. And this game is by Jacqueline Brick. So, let's see. I also need my deck of cards. I have spent all morning trying to use my brain and be a functional human being because time change is stupid and I hate it. So, got my deck of cards that I totally had prepared. I do have to separate it out. Yeah, exactly. I'm stupid time change. See, we're all on the same page. Alana too. It's dumb. I don't like it. So for this game, I have a deck of cards, but what I do is I'm going to separate the face cards from the number cards for reasons we will get into here in a minute. So bear with me while I do that, because professional streamer over here, and I did not plan ahead because I'm barely functional today mentally. So just doing all this exciting stuff on stream. Super, super fun. Because you all get to watch me read. Okay. Got it. So I separate the deck of cards into the boss deck, which is the face cards, and the headlines deck, which is all cards. Oh shit, ace through 10. Damn it. I fucked up. Hold on. Helps if you actually read and not just ADHD read. Okay. It's not that I don't read, Aaron. It's that I can't read because ADHD likes to fuck me over. Or at least... Actually, no, that's just facts. That's not even me gaslighting myself. That's just how it goes. Because sometimes I forget to read the whole thing and just assume that I know what it says. Which is usually a mistake. Almost always. So I've already kind of thought about my main character a little bit. So my character is Hazel, she, they pronouns. And my character's sister is Jewel, she, her pronouns. And I think that Hazel is the older sister. Not by a lot, but just enough to kind of have that, my younger sister is like piloting a mech in a war and feel protective, but I can't do anything kind of thing. So we then create the threat that the sibling and their fellow mech pilots face on the battlefront, which I've kind of given some thoughts to, but not a whole lot. Then turn of play proceeds as follows. Roll the events die, which is a d20, and pull from the headlines deck. You'll write or otherwise record a diary entry about the player character's day, so Hazel's day. Your entry should be informed by these polls as well as previous polls as relevant. How does the player character feel about the war? How do they deal with aftershocks on the home front? What effects do the siblings' actions have on them? And discard cards from the headlines deck once you pull them. So you're not getting the same thing over and over. Every 5 pulls from the headlines deck, as well as every time you roll a natural 20, pull from the boss deck, which is the face cards, in addition to the above. Incorporate the information from the boss deck, as well as the headlines deck and the events die. So, sounds like a lot of things. I don't think it'll be too horribly much. The first 2 times that you draw from the boss deck, you're supposed to have the jokers shuffled in. And when you pull a joker from the boss deck, you write your final entry and move on to the epilogue. So potentially I could do that with the very first boss. So let's see. we want to give a look to our player character. Let's see. I'm gonna say that Hazel is the more, I guess, like tomboy, to use that term for lack of a better one, of the siblings. So, does things that are not necessarily traditionally girly. Not that gender roles actually matter, because gender is fake unless you like it, and then that's cool if you want to identify with that. Let's see. Yeah, so fake. Gender is what you make it. Other friends. They give some examples. I'm gonna say Corey the Space Cadet is Hazel's main friend. And their hobbies would be obviously space sports. This would be Hazel's hobbies. So space sports and magic tricks, because why not? I mean, why would you limit yourself to one thing when you could do two things? And how I feel about my sibling, I've already kind of figured that out, that I'm the protective older sibling. Definitely miss them a lot and worry about them. And then for the sibling, already decided that her name is Jewel. She, her pronouns. Look, very tidy. Doesn't ever wear like their dress uniform, but still dresses very nicely, despite being on the front lines. Let's see. Give some options for their mecha weapons, and obviously they always get a railgun, and I have no railgun, which is why I'm screaming. I like the energy lance option, so in addition to the railgun, they've got a nice energy lance. Already established my relationship to them. Other mech pilots. I like, from their suggestions, Pilot Summers the Sweetheart is their friend. Let's see. So I'm going to roll some dice. Not because I have to, but because I want to. Because why else would you play TTRPGs if not to do random things? So rolling my d20 to see what my threat is like. So 6, 8, 13. Ooh, okay. The type is worm-like. Ooh, with leathery skin. Interesting. Their weapons are whipping vines. Ooh, so like worms with like vine-like tentacle things that come off of them. Getting some kind of Dune vibes a little bit. Common name. Let's see. Okay. Much sillier than I would have expected, but their common name, are Gigasauruses. So these giant worms with whip tentacle things are Gigasauruses. So let's roll some events. Let's do some stuff. So first up, this time I have to roll. Got a 15 on my d20 for the events. You leave school early after combat gets close enough to cause minor earthquakes. What needs to be cleaned up? And first card, the Ace of Diamonds. So let's take a look. See what we've got here. Diamonds. Oh, okay. Wow, we're getting real heavy right from the get-go. So, leave school early after combat gets close enough to cause minor earthquakes. These earthquakes obviously kill a lot of people. The headline is Proposed Mass Grave Site Running Up Against Zoning Concerns. Yeah, so that's rough. I think that this battle was close enough that it's not even necessarily that. I guess the earthquake, I mean, it would have killed a lot of people, like I said. So I guess they're trying not to have to move too much, but they also don't want to, have a giant mass grave in the middle of like a housing area. But you don't really get to pick where battles happen, especially with these Gigasauruses attacking. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on from that. Let's see what event 2 is. 5. Oh. Someone in my neighborhood gets arrested for dodging the emergency draft. Good for them. And our second card is the 5 of Hearts. So that is our second headline. So, Hearts. So, the headline is Jewel, a profile. The hopes and dreams of a rising star. So, I think that possibly, this profile kind of talks about how she is on the front lines, doing all of this fighting to protect all of us. And it is pretty obvious to Hazel this is just some like wartime propaganda. Knowing her sister, that's not who Jewel is. She doesn't want to be out there, but she really doesn't have a choice, especially, with the emergency draft and whatnot. I think that probably who gets arrested, I would say it's Corey. I would say that it's Hazel's friend who gets arrested. And Hazel has to go down and like bail them out of jail, try to convince the arresting officers, I guess, that Corey's in school, is a space cadet, so obviously can't be going out doing mech stuff because they've got other duties that they've got to take care of. And I would say probably pretty upset. A lot of people would be reading this headline about their sister, and so going to bail out Corey would be not an easy task. It'd be a little bit stressful to begin with. And then also hearing all these people talking about, her sister in a way that's not true to who she is, probably would kind of be like simmering on the inside, that frustration and resentment that, her younger sibling has to go out and do this. And then at the same time, these people are writing things that are obviously untrue if you actually knew Jewel. So Hazel's having a great time. It's been a solid week for her. And on that note, we'll move on to our next event. We've got 8 which is... Oh, good. I'm so glad that this is such a happy game, which I mean, I kind of knew from the theme of it that it wasn't likely to be super happy and goofy. But yeah, Hazel has a nightmare about their sibling dying horribly. Definitely because these Gigasauruses are like these giant worms with whippy fine things. Probably it even is like a first person perspective of, if I were Jewel. So like seeing as the mech has its chest plate ripped open, and so this giant worm creature is peering in as Hazel wakes up, breathing heavy and sweating, just not having a good time. Not a great way to wake up. And let's see what our headline is. Got the Two of Spades, which is civic protests as emergency services grind to a halt. So yeah, I think in response to the mandatory draft, there are massive protests, which, considering how close the fighting has gotten to where we are, could end really badly. Because who knows? I mean, these creatures, we don't really know what they want or like how they target things. So hopefully nothing bad happens there. But there's not a whole lot to say about that, so I'm going to move on to the next one. I've got 11 for what I'm doing. Ooh. A new family moves in next door. They're refugees from closer to the battlefront, which is not very far away. One of the children is my age. Maybe we could be friends. Let's see. Let's come up with a nice character name. Because I didn't know that I would need that. Okay. Random name. I don't like it. Wow. Okay. These are... Okay. Yeah, you know what? We're going to go with the surname that they gave me, which is Christopher, because some of these names are a lot. Yeah, Christopher, I think, is kind of a twatopotamus, and we're not friends. They are probably in like whatever the mecha equivalent of the junior ROTC would be. And so Hazel's not a fan at all. This is someone who is clearly like a narc, who is very pro-military, whereas Hazel is very anti-military and obviously appreciates the things that they do to protect the civilians, but don't have to like the things that they actually do outside of that. So let's see. What was our headline? Got the 5 of spades. So, okay. The headline is Armageddon Syndrome. Studies show mental health crises greater risk than radiation poisoning. Okay. again, kind of feels like some propaganda. Hazel reading this is probably feeling very motivated to do something. Not that there's a whole lot that civilians can do sometimes, but I think that she's probably, like, after Corey got arrested and had to be bailed out, I think that the two of them are probably starting to gather like other students and other like-minded people. Probably have started like writing a like an online zine, kind of talking about these different headlines and their takes on them. And I think that because a lot of times things like mental health are deprioritized in times of emergency by big governments and things like that, or when they are given attention, they're, as a response, there's no like, they don't care ahead of time, before bad things happen. It's just like, oh, look, this bad thing happened. We're taking care of these people's mental health. But they cut funding constantly leading up to that. So then the response is not very effective because there aren't as many people. There's not as much as far as resources to respond to things like that. And so that is what Hazel and Corey are writing about. And let's see. Got our 5th card, which means we're also going to draw a boss card. And so I got a 12. My family plants a garden in case food gets scarce. I mean, that's just smart. And we've got the 10 of diamonds for our headline. Let's see. So the headline is Icarus Solutions stock soars after winning legal battles over location of Daedalus low Earth orbit weapons platform. Okay. I think that while Hazel is not pro-military, or in this case, this is like a military-industrial complex kind of thing, I think that they're not a fan of the location because so it's a low Earth orbit weapons platform. Maybe it causes a lot of interference because it blocks out important satellite functions at times. So it causes people's internet to cut out. It causes GPS to malfunction, things like that, because they prioritize this weapon over the civilians and their needs. But at the same time, this is something that can help to battle these creatures, these Gigasauruses, without the need for the mechs and the mech pilots out there, especially because they do use children and teens to pilot these. So I'm sure that there are some very scathing things that Hazel is writing up about this, but probably is a little bit more not positive in regards to these, but not quite as critical as they might be otherwise. But we've got our boss card, which is the Queen of Hearts. So let's see what Jewel is up against. Okay, so the Queen of Hearts is a creature called Grace of the Valley. Interesting. So it says these can be events, unique threats, armies, or even stranger things. So Grace of the Valley, maybe. You know what? Let's say that because the fighting has been fairly nearby, maybe there is a very deep valley that isn't horribly far from the city where we live, and there is a high casualty rate, but this massive, maybe even like a queen Gigasaurus is able to be defeated. You know, it emerges. It's something that we hadn't seen before. Uh, you know, it cost a lot of lives, but it was able to be defeated, especially with help from the weapons platform, the low Earth orbit weapons platform. So, definitely would be talking a lot about how something like the Daedalus platform could have been used a lot earlier in the war, um, to prevent a lot of loss of lives of these pilots. I don't think that they would have a lot else to say, because they don't want to sound like they're too for any kind of weapons. But obviously, they're not happy about the loss of life in the process. And I don't think that I want to do a whole lot of this. Not because it's a bad game. I just normally try to keep these solos a little bit short. I do like this game. It's interesting. I think the biggest issue for my deck of cards, so it has, depending on which kind of Joker you draw, if it's the red Joker, your side wins the war at the cost of your sibling and other mech pilots. The black Joker is your side loses the war, you're reunited with your sibling in a refugee camp. So I, in my deck, do not have different color Jokers. They're just the same. So we're just gonna do a coin flip. We're gonna say heads, it's red, tails, it's black. And it is tails. Okay. So that means after Grace of the Valley, I think that the loss of this queen, it wasn't the only, but it showed us that there's more intelligence to these creatures than we thought. We thought that they were just kind of mindless, killing worm machine things. But we saw that they do have sort of a hive mind, and the loss of one of them was pretty surprising to them. Up to this point, it had been a fairly close battle. That was the biggest setback that they had, and so they kind of rally and destroy the city, causing these civilians to flee. And eventually, we are reunited, Jewel and Hazel. And so, how do we hide from the threat? I think we probably would leave the planet. I think that it would be a case where we just need to evacuate and call it a loss. And so in the epilogue, it says, no matter which Joker you drew, the war ends for the player character and their sibling. The invasion of the threat irrevocably changes the face of the world forever. Whether humanity survives in its current form, is knocked back to the Stone Age, or only survives in pockets and islands across the globe, the main conflict ends. Now's the time for rebuilding. I mean, this world is I'm sure that there are humans who don't escape and manage to live on, but a good chunk of us leave to rebuild elsewhere. Let's see. So it says if you pulled the Black Joker, which is what we're saying I pulled, I think it asks when does your sibling open up to you about what actually happened? How are you equipped for this? How are you more equipped for this world than them? I think that it takes quite a while. We're off world for a very long time before she actually feels comfortable to talk about it. And I think the fact that I didn't have to go out and fight, and I don't feel like the same level of fear. Obviously the fighting got pretty close to where we were, so there would still be a fear, but not the same as being on the front lines fighting day in and day out. And so I think that Hazel is able to kind of take over again in that older sibling role, being protective. And okay, so the second part of the epilogue should take place 5, 10, or 15 years in the future. The player character and possibly their sibling, if they didn't die, which didn't happen in this case, grew up in the shadow of a monstrous threat, and is now part of a bridge generation. Those who remember the world before, but grew up in the new world. How does this shape them? What skills have they picked up? Did they ever get used to the presence of the threat? And perhaps even learning how to mitigate its effects. So I think that Jewel would have taken their skills with the mech. Probably, we're going to say it's 15 years in the future. So it was probably a good 5 or 6 years after we left the world, before they ever felt comfortable being even in the presence of a mech again. They kind of did everything they could to avoid it. And there are more militarized mechs here because, we want to make sure that there's not other threats and to be able to protect ourselves. But there are also non-combat versions. And after several years, then Jewel is able to take their piloting abilities to use these non-combat mechs. And so 15 years after we have left, I think that they're both pretty close. I think that Hazel has really come into their own as like an anti-war advocate, probably with a lot of help from Jewel. And Jewel has done a lot of probably not being like the face or even like the person whose name is on things, but they've done a lot of like behind the scenes kind of assistance with Hazel's writing, while also really just kind of living a fairly normal civilian life, trying to stay away from any kind of combat and things like that. I think that probably other people have tried to go back and retake that world, but mostly it's not been very successful. Those low orbit weapons platforms, they try to kind of keep things under control, but because these are worms, they're subterranean, it's pretty hard to do very much. yeah, so we just kind of stay on our world, and that world has been lost to the worms. So, anyway, you're welcome, everyone, for this not very happy kind of adventure first thing on a Sunday morning. It's seemingly what I do at this point is make us all sad. um, I enjoyed it. Hopefully, you all did as well. I will have links to the game in the description whenever I post this later. And yeah, let's see if anybody's online. I don't know if anyone is because it's early and a lot of times there's not a lot of people on, but maybe. Because if there is, we will raid somebody. If not, that's okay too. Well, I would check if it would let me. Cool. Yeah, doesn't look like anybody else is on. So, anyway, uh, thanks, Elena and Aaron, for lurking and for your commentary on this. And we will see you all next time. Bye.